Hello everyone, I would like to cordially welcome you all to Unit 20 of the MOOC on Gender in the Media. This unit is on issues of empowerment belonging to week 7 of the 8th module on women in media representation in the industry. In this particular video lecture, we shall discuss the concept of empowerment and other related aspects. We shall also analyze some of the issues of empowerment like finding a voice in the public sphere, gender language, and empowerment in the media industry. Now, what is exactly empowerment? How do we define empowerment? Empowerment is a process through which individuals or groups may gain control over their lives, make informed decisions, and participate actively in social, political, and economic spheres. It involves enhancing one's ability to access resources, assert rights, and influence change. Empowerment is multidimensional, encompassing economic, social, political, and psychological aspects, and is deeply rooted in the idea of creating equal opportunities for all. At its very core, empowerment is all about redistributing power, enabling marginalized individuals, especially women and underrepresented communities, to challenge the systemic inequalities and take control of the narratives. True empowerment not only provides access to opportunities but also fosters self-confidence, critical thinking, and the ability to make independent choices. Now, when we talk about finding a voice in a public sphere, what do we need to look into? What do we usually see? One of the key indicators of empowerment is the ability to express oneself and be heard in public spaces. The public sphere refers to platforms where individuals they engage in discussions, debates, and shapes societal narratives, which also includes media, politics, education, and community forums. Finding a voice in a public sphere, it means overcoming barriers such as social norms, gender bias, and institutional discrimination that often silence marginalized groups. It involves creating an inclusive space where diverse perspectives are acknowledged and valued. Media digital platforms, grassroots activism, and political participation serve as crucial channels for amplifying voices and ensuring representation. When individuals, particularly those from disadvantaged backgrounds, they gain visibility and contribute to public discourse, it fosters greater awareness, policy reforms, and social change. Whether through journalism, literature, community radio, or activism, finding a voice in a public sphere is a powerful step towards a more equitable society where every individual can participate in shaping the future. Over the past few decades, words such as women's development, women's empowerment, and improved quality of life for women have been widely used at several international platforms by different academicians, by different development agencies, NGOs, civil societies, as well as by the administration or the government of different countries, while discussing issues related to gender equality and sustainable development. In most of the developing countries, the status of women is affected by complex social conditions such as gender inequality, poverty, lack of education, child mortality, non-participation in public forums, and so on and so forth. What happens is that this restricts their participation in the development process. It is a well-known fact that women's active participation in the development process is invariably linked to socio-economic development of any society. Hence, any strategy that neglects the need for enhancing the role of women cannot lead to comprehensive development. So the issue of women's development is of prime importance in the present day context. Although women they contribute equally and sometimes even more than men, their role and contributions are hardly ever recognized or acknowledged, and they are hardly ever made a part of any decision-making process. These days, efforts are being made at a global level in order to involve women in the development process. In most of the countries, including India, the respective governments have been trying to empower the women through various developmental and welfare schemes. During the initial phase, what happened was that women's development the world over, it was merely considered a part of the larger process of modernization, which in turn was expected to lead to the overall development of all, irrespective of class, caste, race or gender. And the assumptions of the modernization theory, it was criticized by Bostrom in 1970, who showed how the needs of women had been overlooked and argued for women's integration as equal partners with men in the development process. The women and development approach, it came up in the late 70s as an alternative that criticized the women in development approach for ignoring the capitalist nature of the developmental process with its inherent socio-cultural and gendered inequalities. So the women and development approach, it said that inequalities, patriarchy and capitalism had a detrimental effect on empowering women in different walks of life. The interdisciplinary approach of gender and development, which emerged in the 1980s, it deals with the entire question of imbalance of power between genders and is a more comprehensive approach encapsulating all fields of gender discrimination. So the gender and development, this interdisciplinary approach is based on the basic premise that women in every society they represent an oppressed, discriminated, unequal and disadvantaged social category who needs to be empowered if one is to achieve sustainable development. Thus, it favors the elimination of every kind of social, customary or legal constraint that hampers women's ability and equal participation in the overall development process. It argues that a woman-friendly environment and woman-sensitive socio-economic policies combined with women's self-empowerment through the capacity building and mobilization in an organized manner will lead to an improved overall status and quality of life for women. The word empowerment, it became a buzzword since the 1990s when the development approach began to be modified by a newer welfare approach that viewed women as beneficiaries of various services and concessions. So the new approach, it aimed at empowering women by making them independent and active players in all aspects of their lives. Empowerment requires an awareness and inclination for self-betterment on part of women themselves. That is a change in their attitude with awareness towards their own capabilities and potentialities is necessary. And when we talk about empowerment in the context of women, it requires a fundamental and dynamic change in perception of women in the society, the expectations from them, and a systematic and sympathetic understanding of their problems and needs. Thus, empowerment is an essential tool to bring about a change in the status and position held by women in every society, be it a developing society or a developed one. Now, if we look at some of the key dimensions of empowerment, what are those? We have psychological empowerment. And by psychological empowerment, we mean that it focuses on an individual's sense of self-worth, their confidence and the belief in the ability to influence their environment. Then we have social empowerment. It actually emphasizes the importance of relationships, the importance of networks and collective action in enabling the individuals to achieve their goals. Then we have economic empowerment. So economic empowerment basically involves providing individuals with the resources and opportunities to achieve financial independence and stability. Then moving on, we have political empowerment. So political empowerment, it basically focuses on enabling individuals to participate in decision-making processes and advocate for their respective rights. It also includes promoting civic education and awareness, as well as encouraging participation in governance and policy making. Then we have educational empowerment. Now, educational empowerment, from the term itself, we can make out that it involves providing individuals with access to knowledge, skills, and learning opportunities that enable them to make informed choices and pursue their aspirations. Now, why we are giving so much of importance of empowerment? Empowerment is crucial for what? For fostering individual and collective growth, for reducing inequalities, and for promoting sustainable development. So first important point when we talk about the importance of environment that we need to focus on is it helps to promote self-reliance. Empowerment actually helps the individuals to develop the skills and confidence needed to take charge of their lives and make instant decisions. Empowerment helps to reduce inequality. When you address the systemic barriers and provide opportunities to marginalized groups, empowerment promotes social justice and equality. The empowerment also enhances the community development. Empowered individuals are more likely to contribute to their communities, driving positive change and fostering collective progress. It even encourages innovation and creativity. When the individuals when they feel empowered, they are more likely to think creatively, take risks, and develop innovative solutions to challenges. Empowerment also improves the quality of life. It leads to improved access to resources, better health outcomes, and greater economic stability. Now, how can we ensure the empowerment should prevail in the society? What are the strategies for empowerment? How can we achieve that? The first important strategy is through education and skill development. When you provide access to quality education and training programs to equip the individuals with the knowledge and skills they need to succeed. By providing access to other resources, when you ensure that individuals have access to financial, technological, and social resources, you actually enable them to achieve their goals. Then another important strategy for empowerment, it includes promoting participation. Encouraging the individuals to actively participate in decision-making processes, whether it is in their own communities, whether it is in their own workplaces or political systems, it will actually lead to better empowerment. And lastly, another important strategy for building up empowerment is it helps to build supportive network. By building supportive network, you can ensure a good sustainable empowerment to take place. When you create platforms for collaboration, for mentorship and peer support to foster a sense of belongingness and a shared purpose, you encourage empowerment. You build a better empowerment. There are a number of voluntary organizations and other self-help groups that have been doing a commendable job in empowering women, more specifically in a country like India. We have some of the important prominent among them are Volunteering India, Helping You, Helping Others. Now this is a woman empowerment program. It is a woman empowerment program that works for the welfare and social development of women who are underprivileged and they belong to poor background within the capital city of Delhi. And all these women, they come from deprived families and have low or no education level. So this is one such organization. Then there is the Swadhina, that is Changing Life and Living. Swadhina, it was established in 1986. It is primarily a civil society organization that is focused on empowerment of women and child development based on sustainable development and right livelihood. Then there is SEWA, that is Self-Employed Women's Association. So SEWA is a trade union that is registered in 1972. It is an organization of the poor self-employed women workers. And these are women who earn their living through their own labor or small businesses. They do not obtain regular salaried employment with welfare benefits like workers in the organized sector. They are the unprotected labor force of our country. Then we have the Rural Education and Action Development, READ. It is basically an NGO with a headquarter in Andimadam in Tamil Nadu. This particular NGO, it was started by Mr. D. Selvam to help and empower the local people in his area. It basically works to improve the social, educational and economic conditions of the underprivileged, the disadvantaged and vulnerable people, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, sex and sexual orientation. Then there is a Shri Mahila Griha Udyog. Now, it is a unique organization of the woman, by the woman, for the woman, which symbolizes woman's strength. So these are some of the organizations, some of the NGOs that have actually worked for the empowerment of women in the country. So we can say that empowerment is basically a transformative process that enables the individuals and communities to realize their potential, overcome the challenges, and contribute to societal progress. It encompasses psychological, social, economic, political, and education dimensions, each playing a vital role in fostering self-reliance and equality. By implementing the strategies that provide access, participation, and awareness, empowerment can create a more just, inclusive, and sustainable world. Now, there is another issue that we need to be talking about, that needs to be discussed, is about the gendered language. It's an important issue of empowerment that we need to look into. Now, gendered language is language that basically favors one gender over the other. And this can include words, phrases, and job titles that reinforce stereotypes. Now, for example, there are certain examples of gendered language, like using he or him to refer to people in general, or maybe using businessman or waitress instead of business person or waitstaff. One might use chairman instead of chair or chairperson. One might use policeman or policewoman instead of police officer. So these are some of the examples of some commonly used words that we use on a daily basis. We all know the language acts as a form of symbolic code, and because it does this in a subtle way, it can have a significant influence on our thinking in a way that we don't question it because it feels natural. And this symbolic code is also known as semiotics. In essence, semiotics explores the practices by which we attach significance or meaning to things through our social practices. It considers how something becomes code for or a signifier for something else. Because these emerge from social practice, we can appreciate that this change over time and that they must be influenced by relations of power to direct that change. By looking at language anew, we can identify the ways in which it shares our thoughts and actions, and also think more carefully about the underpinning social practices that sustain them. For example, the word pink. It has become associated with and seen to be symbolic of feminine. It is usually associated with girls rather than boys and women rather than men. When we witness through the color choice of clothes, toys, accessories for females, and even official signage such as, different signs and symbols which we see on different localities. We have phrases such as pink collar work used to denote low paid, low status work, typically undertaken by women, such as care work. The word pink is also associated with LGBTQ, which stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer, which in turn is a community of people often assumed to be more feminine than masculine. In Italian, a romanza rosa, which means pink romance, is a romantic novel targeted at females. So what can we do? So we can make use of certain gender neutral language to avoid reference to a particular gender. We should learn to use gender neutral terms like flight attendant instead of stewardess. We can use spouse or partner instead of husband or wife. We can use firefighter instead of fireman. One may also use legislator instead of congressman. So these are some of the, gender neutral language. Certain words are there that can be used, to avoid it. Now, there is another important issue of empowerment which we need to look into is the empowerment in the media industry. Empowerment in the media industry, it refers to the process of giving individuals or groups within the media sector, particularly marginalized communities, the ability to actively participate, influence narratives, and represent their own perspectives through various media platforms, promoting social change and challenging existing power structures by providing a platform for diverse voices and viewpoints. Some of the key aspects of this media empowerment, it includes, the first, we have representation. It ensures that marginalized communities are accurately portrayed in media, avoiding stereotypes and giving voice to diverse experiences. Then under access to platforms, it includes providing opportunities for underrepresented groups to produce and disseminate content through various media channels, including traditional and digital platforms. Then as far as diversity in workforce is concerned, it leads to encouraging a diverse range of voices within media organizations, including journalists, producers, and decision makers. Then another aspect that we need to look into is citizen journalism. Now, empowering individuals to share their stories and perspectives through social media and online platforms can lead to empowerment within the media sector. So these are some of the certain important aspects that we need to introspect, we need to look into as far as empowerment in the media industry sector is concerned. Now, increased employment of women within the senior and creative media positions is an important goal in its own right. But from the point of view of portrayal of gender, a key question is what difference, if any, women in the industry make to the kinds of representations that we see, we hear and read every day. Does employing more women lead to better representations of women, as many people implicitly assume? Do women produce news that is feminist or even feminine? Many journalists and commentators, they argue that they do. And it is often asserted that women, they tell stories that would otherwise be ignored, that they have different ethical values from men that are evident in their reporting, and that they are particularly concerned to look at the human effects of the stories they are covering. With the passing of time, feminist media practitioners, they're carving a niche for themselves in the media. The entrepreneurial venture of establishing media organizations by them to produce and distribute media material is a step in that direction. Organizations like Feminist International Radio Endeavor, Africa Woman and Child Feature Service, and Women's International News Gathering Service, they train the media on being more gender sensitive, while monitoring the media and educating audience members to analyze the media more carefully. Feminist advocates like the International Women's Tribune Center, they also create platforms for dialogues and partnerships between grassroots women's organizations and the media. Still others like International Women's Media Foundation, they train women in the news media, equipping them with the skills they need to succeed in their career and become efficient leaders in field of news. Such advocates have, with the help of law, challenged the exclusion of women from decision-making positions within media structures, oppose blatant sexism in the media industry. In matters of policies, women have lobbied governments, the United Nations, and other such regulatory agencies to develop and implement policies that would transform women's role in media institutions and media's portrayal of women. A prime example in this regard is the Beijing Platform for Action, which is a comprehensive agenda for women's empowerment that was adopted by 189 governments at the 4th World Conference on Women in Beijing in 1995. So they cite women and media as one of the critical areas of concern and have two strategic objectives. One being the increase in participation and access of women to expression and decision making in and through the media, and new technologies of communication, and the other being the promotion of a balanced and non-stereotype portrayal of women in media. While significant improvements have been made in terms of women's media representation and visibility, the problems that exist are very much complex in nature and deeply rooted, with no easy solutions. Women have to be vigilant and aware that much more work needs to be done. With more developments, that issue gets more complicated to address. Gender issues are deeply linked to other factors of domination and subordination. Race, caste, class, ethnicity, religion, and sexual orientation plays an important role. Multiple global crises like financial, food, and environmental crisis, it cause more complexities, and it is a part of many other movements of a social, political, and economic nature. In the realm of journalistic ethics itself, challenging stereotypical and negative portrayals of women and men are seen as imperative. The nil or unequal visibility of half the population, inadequate and inaccurate portrayals of diverse women's images is a violation of basic journalistic ethics. Women have to make their presence felt in the newsroom, the boardroom, and in running the government. Their role in policy making should not be far behind. Very often, lack of women's equal access to the media and their decision making structures, it affects the media's portrayal of women. Positive images and a variety of them in the media enable women to see themselves in their fullest potential. And reflection of such images, it helps to create a balanced world where irrespective of age, gender, minority and majority, all equally govern together, exchanging ideas and solutions, creating a better world for everyone. So with this, we have come towards the end of this particular video lecture. Thank you.